Draymond Green.
Well, I was just going to say that as we were talking about the just all the cap stuff, right?
Yeah.
I know it gets very confusing, and I'm sure some people are, nauseated by finances. That's like we're talking $500 million. It's monopoly money to most of us normal folks, and so I get why there is some pushback on just even discussing it. But everyone's asking on the text line, like, hey, how did the Players Association agree to this CBA?
Yeah, it's terrible.
Well, here's the problem is the small market and medium market owners were pushing and pushing and pushing for this. And what you've seen now, and this is across sports, but more so in the NBA, you've got max contracts. And so you have players like Steph Curry slotted into a number that he has to take. So you have people that are undeserving of max contracts on the low end of the max deals. And then you have this Grand Canyon of no mid-level people, no middle class, and then you got a bunch of cheap contracts. So then Jordan Poole's a great example of someone who falls into you got to pay him because he's coming up here and he's shown promise. So you end up paying the guy $25, $35 million, and you just got a lot of John Collins type deals out there right now, and you don't have a lot of Kevon Looney-like deals.
Right.
You don't have a lot of great bargain deals. And so I think it's really difficult right now, the landscape. And I'm with a lot of people. Why did the Players Association agree to this? Because they took concessions in other areas.
Took a lot of concessions.
And I think they kind of got rolled over on this.
They got rolled over big time. I mean, CJ McCollum, Grant Williams, whoever helped broker this deal, they got trounced. They gave in to the ownership groups. And you know what? If John Collins is getting that money, I'm not mad at him.
No, but he's getting dumped.
Right, he's getting dumped, the salary dump. But you know what? He's getting his money. But the contracts like that, these owners are just throwing money around. And then all of a sudden, the mid-level owners, if you don't, that's why in professional sports, if you want to be a cheap owner, then sell your team. If you own a team, you should know that comes with owning a team. That comes with it. You got to spend money. Got to spend money on stadiums. Got to spend money on concessions. You got to do it all. And so these owners just Joe Lakham's spending too much. He's being reckless. He's not even the richest owner in the NBA.
No.
So I kind of, the Major League Baseball, I like the fact that, they had the tax threshold. You can't go over a certain, what is it, 208 now, 212.
Yeah.
You can penalize them. But for many years, they didn't have that cap. They didn't have that tax penalty. You know what I'm saying?
Well, and I believe in a meritocracy. So on the bottom end of that bell curve that you're talking about, you've got the Tampa Bay Rays. And do they spend a lot of money?
No, they don't.
No, but what have they done? They've poured their resources, what little they have, into trying to be outsmart everyone.
But they also took those handouts.
No doubt. They get the revenue sharing as well.
The revenue sharing check.
No doubt. But it's interesting. You talk about CJ McCollum being the head, and I get why you put players of prominence in there. CJ's gotten paid a lot of money.
A lot of money. A lot of money. When Chris Paul was running it.
If you've ever been a part of the union,
a lot of money.
Exactly. If you've ever been a part of the union, there is, when you're on the low end of the union, you look at some of these guys, whatever union it is, especially in the trades, you look at them like, dude, you've been in a desk for 20 years.
Right.
You ain't been out in the field.
No.
Right? And I'm not saying that always applies, and there are some great union reps and people of power and positions, but I've seen it firsthand where you're at the bottom rung and you're sitting here and you're looking up at these people that represent your entire union, and they are trying to do the best they can, but they haven't been in your position. For example, CJ's been paid over and over. He hasn't been a middle-class player.
Yep.
He's been a high-priced player for a long time.
Yep. Great text here from the 510 Comcast Business Text Line. I kind of agree with them. Some teams got to learn to say no. College isn't the worst. Tobias Harris got $200 million.
Well, that was a horrible deal.
Right. And I knew it on the front end.
Yeah.
We all said it. And I'm thinking to myself, some ownership groups have to say no. But that's the going rate. For some reason, that was set for Tobias Harris. And he's like, and teams just gave in. It's like, I can't lose Tobias Harris. He's going to make or break me. No, he's not.
Well, look at Jaylen Brown right now. And you've talked about this ad nauseum. He's not 280?
295.
Okay. $295 million.
Superbacks.
But because of his accolades, he's slotted into that particular spot.
Right.
I would have a hard time giving him $300 million. And he's a really good player.
Which is
I
why
would even say at times a great player. And we can argue about good, great, and how great. But and $300 million?
For Jaylen Brown, who can't dribble left.
That's what I'm saying.
Can't use his left hand.
I like him a lot, though.
I like him a lot, but not for $300 million. Not for $300 million. Let's go to Sophomore Pacifica. Sophomore, what's happening? You're on the roast.
Gentlemen, thank you. Hey, I have a call to make for the distant future. I think as Curry, finishes his career, I don't think Lacob can lead the Warriors to continued greatness. And the reason is summed up in his comment that they're just employees. You only got 5 men on the basketball court at a time, different than any other sport. And the interdependence and the vibe and the morale among them is super important. I don't think he has a feel for that. And during the run, he's gotten more and more of his people in place, including his own children, into management positions. Strong people like Kerr will leave, like Curry will leave. And I think it'll be a little bit more of a cold mentality and won't lead to the same kind of magic that we've had.
Well, the reality is very few organizations in the history of sports have had the magic that they've had over the last 8, 9, 10 years. So to say that they're going to replicate it or sustain it, history would tell us in sports, you're not. But on the other end of that spectrum, I agree that like on some level you have to, empower Curry and make him feel part of it. But Curry's not going to be here forever. And Joe thinks he is. And whether he sells 5 years from now, 15 years from now, 50 years from now, or never, right? Like, he is the owner. So, I don't know. I see both sides of it in those situations.
He's going to try to be great, though.
Oh,
and that's all I want from my ownership group.
I agree with that.
I just want you to try to be great. Don't be John Fisher. Be Joe Lacob.
Well,
hell, even be Joe Lacob. And, quietly, speaking of that, Jet York has spent a lot of money. And he doesn't get the credit that he deserves here.
I agree with
Jet
you.
York has spent so much money
In
on
escrow.
guarantees, extensions.
Look at the staff.
And he's kept players here.
Look at the staff.
That's why it's hard when people rip Jet York and they say, well, Jet moved the team, Jet moved the team. And I'm like, well, Jet York has spent $355 million in guarantees. Think about the players he spent it on. Trent Williams, Fred Warner, Eric Armstead, Javon Hargrave, George Kittle, Debo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, Travarius Ward, Kyle Juszczyk, Dre Greenlaw,
Jimmy
Nick Bosa's
G.
coming, Jimmy Garoppolo. Nick Bosa's going to get an extension. Brandon Ayuk. I don't know why people say, oh, you can't pay both Debo or Brandon Ayuk. Hell, you can.
Yeah, you can.
Hell, you can. And why are we so quick to move off of playmakers? No, you develop these guys, keep them. So I'm in the camp where I want an owner who's going to be willing to spend money on guarantees, and I got no problem with that. You may not spend wisely all the time, but at least you're willing to spend.
And there's a happy medium in terms of like being, I don't know, like feeling like it's a partnership and then just bowing over to the players. The Brooklyn Nets are a great example of a team that basically said, here you go, Kyrie, here you go, KD, you do what you want. And that experiment failed miserably.
But you know what the owner did? Joe Tsai?
Well, that was the
he
new
took
owner.
control, but he took control of that team and said, no.
I meant the original, the Russian guy.
Oh, the Russian guy, yeah.
And allowed basically KD and Kyrie.
He came in and talked a big game, and he was out the league quick.
Well, there was an entire book written about how they were controlling everything.
Yeah.
Kenny Atkinson, get out of here. You, get out of here. We're making this deal. We're making that deal. Kyrie said, I'm not looking for a coach. I'm looking for someone who can work with us.
Well, Prokhorov was the guy with the Jason Terry, Paul Pierce,
that was the
Kevin
baddest,
Garnett.
right?
That was when he first came to the team, though, and they did all that, and then that was a huge disaster and set them back for another 5-6 years.
Yeah, no doubt. Never made it past the second round. By the way, the odds are out.
That's crazy.
The odds are out for the match.
Yeah.
Team Curry Thompson, minus 310.
Oh.
So that means you have to bet 310 and win 100.
Okay.
Mahomes and Kelsey, plus 245, which means you bet 100. You win 245.
Where's the location out of that?
Oh, well, it's going to be in Las Vegas.
Oh.
You know me, Patrick Mahomes.
Might be the only time Patrick Mahomes loses in Vegas.
Kelsey.
Do you see Curry trolling them? Super Bowl losses?
I mean, if I was Mahomes, I would go straight to 3-1.
3-1, I know.
Game 7 behind the back.
Yeah.